All right. Let the stream get caught up. Should be coming up in a moment now. Fix the monitor a little bit. Fix my camera because it's a little bit goofy. There we go. There we go. Perfect. Excellent. There we go, guys. We're doing a special stream tonight on June 17th. Normally we do a stream the very first Tuesday of a given month, but I didn't really want to shoot any content tonight, so I wanted to say, you know what, let me do a stream instead, because I think you guys like when I do my streams. Drink for tonight, something different. I'm doing a beer tonight. It's called Victory V Sour Monkey Sour Triple. It's this guy right here. It's not too bad if you like a sour beer. It's pretty damn good. Surprisingly, I like the way it tastes. So, figured do some beer tonight. Why the heck not? So, thank everyone for coming to the stream tonight. Of course, the video on demand goes up about a day later. As you know, my channel doesn't have a big following, so they put my stuff up about a day after everything gets loaded up to YouTube. If you're not familiar, they are going through the yearly YouTube scrub for bots. If you're someone who has subscribed to my channel before and has lost my channel, please make sure you do hit that subscribe button at the bottom of the page and click the bell notification to follow me on YouTube for all the new videos that will come out. You'll be made aware of. Apologies, I have to clean my glasses. Again, the drink for tonight is Victory V. It's a sour monkey beer. Yum, yum, yum. So we're going to do a 30-minute stream tonight. Nothing crazy. Talking on two pieces here. First is going to be my 5-year anniversary update, what we're doing for this, coming up on July 4th, which will be my 5th year of doing YouTube. We started this channel on July 4th. I wanted to do it on a special day. I figured July 4th would be a good day, middle of the year, to begin YouTube, which is when I created this channel back in 2016. Jackie, please let me know if you can hear me okay in the chat today. Hopefully it sounds okay. Just please let me know. The volume's up pretty loud, so you should hear me pretty good, I hope. Getting my kind of microphone sorted here. Excellent. There we go. So, 2 points is going to be the 5th year anniversary. Talking about giveaways, I'm doing a set of giveaways which we'll talk kind of vaguely about. And the Dungeons & Dragons Magic the Gathering kind of crossover set, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. The spoilers that have come out so far, I'll get everyone up to speed so far about the set, when to expect the set, what's it kind of all about. Mainly because I used to be a big D&D player, and I used to play Magic back in the day. Thanks, Jackie. But I stopped playing both D&D and Magic. I would do Magic would be more or less an investment option, telling you if the set would be worth your money down the road. Maybe not right now, but a year down the road, 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road. Will this set kind of push dividends? Can you get money off of the set? That's the idea. So first things first, let me get my drink here going. Yummy beer. Okay, so as I mentioned, 2 points. The very first point is the 5th year anniversary of Rook Geek Goodness on YouTube. I can't believe it's been 5 years since I've been doing this stuff. Again, I started, as I mention all the time, I started a YouTube. I wouldn't even call this a career. It's a hobby. I don't make any money or profit on YouTube. I use my time. It's basically what I invest to make sure my lights are okay. They are good. I invest my time into this whole big thing, and I don't make any particular money on it. I just, it's my time. Is what it's all about. Make silent here so you don't need to hear my phone. That's the idea. And I wish I could make profit on my channel, but my following is small and it hasn't grown anymore. I've had even contemplations of even stopping my channel, to be quite honest. I keep it very real with my audience. I don't swindle, I don't cheat, I don't swerve anyone. I'm completely upfront and honest about everything. The channel's still going. It's not as much as it was the first 2 years I started doing YouTube. I had a huge spike in viewership and in watch time and minutes and things like that, but it's very much petered off. As I mentioned before, if you look at the top right corner of your screen where it says 1,970 subscribers, that's not a real number. That's a lot of bots. That's a lot of dead accounts. That number, I would say, I have about maybe 40% of that number is what I really have probably in subscribers. I probably want to say between 800 maybe 700 to 1,000 subscribers that I probably really have, in realistic numbers wise. 1970 is not a real number, it's a fake number. And then scrubbing all these bots will help get the channel back into flux and give the better analytics to basically what my channel would be about. Because right now, it's completely off kilter, it's not right. Um, but usually every anniversary I've done on my channel for, from year one all the way up to now year 5, I've done some type of giveaway. Normally on July 4th, what I'll do, so this will be upcoming on July 4th of this year. There'll be a video. I'll be showcasing it on my table behind, as you see me behind right now. This right over here, my little table. The idea will be basically talking about stuff I've done that particular year and showcasing a set of giveaways. There's going to be 3 giveaways this year. I've done usually 3, maybe 4 giveaways per year. This all comes out of my pocket. I'm not having a sponsor hand me anything. I'm not dealing with Tate's Comics right now because of things they're doing with COVID and things like that in the pandemic. And I know there are issues going on right now. I don't want to kind of tap that asset to try to get anything from them. I don't want to do that. This is coming out of my own personal pocket for these giveaways. So what I will drop as a hint is that you will know what the giveaways are that day on July 4th. I'm going to give you a subtle kind of high level of what we're going to be doing. We're going to be doing, of course, the video showcasing what we've done that particular year, but also near the end of the video, there's going to be 3 giveaways, as I mentioned before. They're going to be based on 3 different sort of themes, as I did it before. Last year, sort of. This year, we're going to be doing giveaway number 1 will be based on Funko movies. There'll be a set of items for there. Number 2 will be a statue. And number 3, I'm going to be calling it Wife's Choice. She's going to be picking out the 3rd giveaway, telling me what she wants me to use for you guys, for the subscribers and viewers, subscribers of my channel. And I'm going to be purchasing that item for the last item for the giveaway. Everything will be going up on the Gleam.io website. So you basically, as soon as the video hits, there'll be a link inside the video, 3 different links, one for each giveaway, and you can enter those. There'll be, if you subscribe to the channel, you get entries into the giveaway. If you follow me on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, you get entries into that as well. If you do everything, you get bonus entries. So I think it's going to be a total of 6 or 7 entries that you can get entered into these giveaways. Usually when I do a giveaway, it's a year sort of anniversary of a giveaway, I let the giveaways run for about a month. And the reason for that is because people might have missed the video, come to it on a later date, and they still can be eligible for these giveaways. That's the idea. I want to get as much eyes I can on my channel during this time. If you know people that want to get giveaways, free stuff, tell them to definitely follow me, have them subscribe to the channel. That's how you get entered into the giveaway for more entries into this giveaway. Again, there's 3 different things that we're going to be doing, 3 separate things that will be showcased more when I do that July 4th video. First is going to be Funko movies. There'll be a set of items there. Second is going to be a statue. It's not going to be a big statue. I will give a hint that it will be from Iron Studios. They will be doing, that item will be coming from Iron Studios, which is a subsidiary company of Sideshow Collectibles. And the last item will be Wife's Choice. So she's picking that last item, that spot for that particular giveaway. So again, 3 giveaway items, July 4th, celebrating my 5-year anniversary of YouTube. I couldn't do it without my audience. As I mentioned before, my following is not big. I'm not the biggest, YouTuber out there, but I think I have a good heart. I think my message is in the right place. As I mentioned before many, many times in most of my videos, that I'm an honest guy. I'm a straight shooter. I do not lie to my community. I tell people straight, as much as you may or may not like what I have to say, it's the honest truth. And that's what I try to hone in on, is the facts and the truth. It might rub people the wrong way, but it's the truth, and it's me being fair and honest. So, that being aside, the 5-year anniversary coming up in July 4th, 2020. I believe that is, let's take a look here. I think it's probably a Tuesday or a Wednesday. It's going to be, let me pop it here, hold on. Boop. No, this year is going to be on a Sunday. So that video will be going up on Sunday. Absolutely. I thought it would be earlier in the month, but it's not. So that's fine. It's going to be up on a Sunday. That's cool. I have no problem with that. The video will be up on Sunday talking about everything you can do in that particular video as far as those giveaways. I'm not even sure what July 4th was this year, so pardon my ignorance. The next part that we're talking about today, of course we're doing a 30-minute stream tonight, is going to be Magic the Gathering's Dungeons & Dragons crossover set, Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. Now, if you're not familiar, Magic the Gathering was was done by Wizards of the Coast. That's the company that owns Magic the Gathering. Wizards of the Coast also purchased Dungeons & Dragons, but it was originally done by a company called TSR back years ago in the 70s and the 80s. That was a company, and the 90s, owned and created Dungeons and Dragons called TSR. TSR was then purchased and acquired by Wizards of the Coast, which then was Wizards of the Coast was then purchased by Hasbro. So underneath the big Hasbro umbrella is Wizards of the Coast. They acquired the TSR brand, which had Dungeons and Dragons and all their rights and their IP. That's the idea there. So let me just kind of push this up a little bit, get better in a shot. There we go. Get better in the frame. That'll be a lot easier now. So they acquired Dungeons and Dragons for Wizards of the Coast, and they kept both the Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons IP completely separated until I think as far as last year goes, or beginning of this year, where they made a Dungeons and Dragons source book based in a Magic the Gathering plane called Ravnica. If you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, it's a world called Ravnica. Magic the Gathering has what they call planes, and each sort of set is a different plane. That's the idea. So usually you don't hit the same plane twice unless they revisit a certain world. Things like, I think it was Ravnica they went to Zendikar, they went to Innistrad. They go back to a particular set in time, and they will revisit a set they've already done before. Mirrodin being one of them. They went back to Mirrodin, which was an all-artifact-based world and society. So the big, huge amounts of stories have taken place in Mirrodin world. But they're what they're called planes. Inside these planes are different creatures, different what they call planeswalkers. Planeswalkers, if you're not familiar with the terminology or what the players are, they are what they're called planeswalkers. They can fight other wizards or other planeswalkers. They made a card recently called a Planeswalker card, where there are different characters that are like mini players that you can play with on your side. It was a newer based mechanic for Magic the Gathering that never really happened when the game was originally created. It was a newer sort of card, and it's really the money cards usually for most Magic the Gathering sets. Just a little bit of background so you guys will get caught up and understand kind of where I'm coming from. It'll make sense in a moment. So, as I mentioned, Magic the Gathering and D&D were separated as two IPs, and they never crossed over except for that recent D&D sourcebook for Ravnica based off of Magic. They did another one based off of what they called, which was originally supposed to be a crossover with Harry Potter. It was called Strixhaven. Strixhaven was going to be a kind of twist and turned version of Harry Potter, literally Harry Potter characters in Magic the Gathering. They're doing this as their, I think it's called their world, like a world initiative program where they'll take different IPs now and they will put them into Magic the Gathering cards. Things like Lord of the Rings, things like Warhammer 40k. These are basic properties that are coming into Magic the Gathering. Walking Dead as what they call a secret lair being another one here. Apologies for the lights kind of flickering on and off there. That was the idea. So they're trying to branch and make more money for Wizards of the Coast by tapping into these other IPs. Lord of the Rings, Warhammer 40k, being two of them, and of course, Walking Dead, which was very, very successful and profitable for Wizards of the Coast. Usually these secret lairs are special boxes that are sold through Wizards of the Coast's website for a short period of time. It could be days, it could be weeks, or it could be a month of time. They have what they call their drops, and what they sometimes call super drops, where there's multiple secret lairs that you can purchase. They might have like 4 drops that will happen, or you can buy individual a la carte, like 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 1, 2, 3, or all of them at once. And usually you'll get a bonus or a perk if you buy the big super drop. That's the idea. Normally, guys, so you know, I'm not a Magic the Gathering channel. This is just a bunch of information I picked up so you understand where I'm coming from. And again, this will make more sense momentarily. One sec. Need to get my drink again. We're doing some Sour Monkey beer. So the idea was to now try to cross the Magic the Gathering players with the Dungeons and Dragons community and make an amalgam that would work. So what they normally do in every single year for Magic the Gathering, they have what they call their core set. It'll be core set. For example, if they would have had one this year, it would have been called Core Set 2021. Because we're not having a Core Set 2021, they had a Core Set 2020 last year. Or they might have had, I think they might have been a year ahead. So it might have been Core Set 2022. I think they're a year ahead. But I think they had 2021 last year for 2020. So they have it 1 year ahead. I think that's what they do. I think that's how Wizards of the Coast, I believe, does it. You can correct me in the comments if I'm incorrect. I think it works that way. So instead of having a core set like that, they decided to scrap that and build what they're calling the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. if you're the uninitiated and don't know, the Forgotten Realms is probably the most popular D&D setting ever made. It was done by Ed Greenwood back in the 80s. He created this huge world based, and he kind of lynched it and had the groundwork for D&D, and he made this thing called the Forgotten Realms. And it's, again, the most popular D&D campaign setting you can go to. I mean, they have other ones like Greyhawk, they have Dragonlance, they have Starjammers, they have, of course, Ravenloft, which is their horror realm, just to name a few. But Forgotten Realms, their high fantasy world, is probably the most popular world when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. So what they decided to do is say, you know what, we're going to make something called The Adventures in Forgotten Realms, and we're going to make it as a core set, make it a full, I think it's close to a 300 card set with 4 what they call commander decks, which we'll talk about that shortly, as part of this initiate to do this. Are they going to be doing more of these? I don't know yet. I think it's going to be a very popular set. I think it's going to sell very, very well, mainly because you're targeting both demographics. You're targeting both the D&D community and the Magic the Gathering community, and you're hoping for splashovers that would work, that you have Magic players that will start playing D&D, and D&D players will start playing Magic. The original, just so you will know, if you're not, again, not in the know, the original concept of Magic the Gathering was really built for people who played D&D and they couldn't really get into a campaign or couldn't get into a session to play a game. They would sit and wait, wait for the Dungeon Master or whatever they're doing to finish and play this side game ahead of time while the other campaign or other games or the session that other players are doing would happen while they'll play this card game. That was the original intent of Magic the Gathering back in the early 90s, if I get the dates correct. I want to say early 90s, because I know Revised came out in 1992 as far as Magic the Gathering goes. And that was the original concept and the progeneration of the Magic the Gathering idea. That's how it worked. Just to give you more background. So, The Adventures of the Forgotten Realm is created, which will be launching, I think they're doing their pre-release at the end of July with real product shipping in the beginning of August. And why I'm happy about this is the first time we've had Dungeons & Dragon-based characters, classes, monsters, places in the Forgotten Realms done in Magic the Gathering. They've never done this before. Those, again, their 2 IPs are held separate. They put walls between these IPs. There was no crossover for any of this stuff, which makes it very, very cool to get this stuff now. So what I'm going to do is I have the spoilers are open now. They've dropped, I want to say, about 20, maybe 25 cards in a span of about a month. Some of you may play Magic the Gathering, know about this already. People who don't know about Magic, this may be up your alley to maybe even get this set. One thing that we don't know about, and one of the cards is going to touch base in, is something called dungeon cards. We don't know how these dungeon cards are going to work. We do know they're going to be double-sided cards. There's probably a dungeon on one side and maybe a different dungeon on the other side, or you have to flip the card to do something. We don't know how it's going to work yet. We don't know if you play it from your hand. We don't know if it comes into play. We don't know how the rarity works. We don't know if it's sitting in what they call a sideboard, which is off to the side, and maybe something else generates the dungeon, allows you to go into the dungeon to complete a dungeon. Because there's no point of playing Dungeons and Dragons if there are no dungeons and there are no dragons. That's the whole point of D&D, is there Dungeons and Dragons. So this dungeon mechanic we don't know yet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to my second screen, real quick here, and we can start looking at some of these cards. What I will do here is I will drop the link to the spoilers here in the chat. Give me one second here, guys. So we're going to this site right there. That's the link we're going to. And we'll start with the first card right now. Let me switch over to it, and we're looking at that. Whoops. Right, there we go. Now I got it. And we're going to pop that open as well, so I can see the chat. Perfect. So the very first card we're looking at here is what they call Tasha's Hideous Laughter. It's a blue card. If you're not familiar, Tasha is a very nasty and very powerful wizard in Dungeons and Dragons. I think she's called Ibla. I think Ibla was her original name, and she went by an alias, but she's also known as Tasha. She made several spells. Of course, the one we're looking at right now is Tasha's Hideous Laughter. It's a blue spell. If you notice here, it is a rare spell. You can see the icon right here. It's a D&D dragon. It's a gold symbol. It tells you it's a rare. It's a blue sorcery, meaning you can only cast it on your turn during your main phase steps. Costs 2 blue and 1 colorless. colorless mana. It's a sorcery, and it says each opponent exiles cards from the top of their library until that player has exiled cards with a total mana value of 20 or more. It's a card designed to destroy and rip apart decks. If you're not familiar, the Magic the Gathering's one of their win cons, one of their win conditions happens if you cannot draw a card on your turn. When you have to draw a card, you lose the game. So this card, the idea is it's a super powerful, what they call a mill card. And during the original sets of Magic the Gathering, they had a card called Millstone, which you tap it and you pick a player and they have to take the top 2 cards of their library, their deck of cards, and put them to their discard pile, aka their graveyard. If you lose all your cards you can't draw anymore, you lose the game. It's called a mill strategy. This is what they call super mill because this does not put them into your graveyard. It removes the cards from play, hence the term exile. That's what the terminology exile means. So it's a very powerful spell, very, very nasty. It says the raging Behir reared back, opened its terrible maw, and collapsed in a fit of horrifying giggles. The creature here that's being depicted in the artwork is what they call a Behir. It's sort of like a dragon, but it's not a dragon. It's a wingless dragon. It's very, very long and lanky, has a lot of legs. It usually is in this blue color that you see here. It's known to shoot out a breath weapon, bolt of lightning, like a blue dragon, but it's a very, very nasty creature. But it's very cool they have a Behir listed here. Behirs, I'm hoping there'll be more creatures in the Forgotten Realms, in the Adventures of the Forgotten Realms here. We're going to be seeing some unique monsters that we've never seen before. We're looking at a Behir now. We're probably going to see Beholders. Beholders are a D&D well-known established creature. Beholder, also known as eye tyrants. Think of it as a 4-foot seer that floats in the air with a gigantic middle eye and a gigantic mouth with razor-sharp teeth, and has what they call eye stalks. Usually there are 10 of these eye stalks that hang from the top, and literally it floats in the air. The eye has what's called an anti-magic cone, so anything that it falls its gaze on, usually magic will no longer work in that field. Spells will fizzle. Magic items won't. I think magic items stop being magic items. The eye stalks can shoot out different, what they call beams. They range from paralyzation to ray of frost to stone to flesh to stone. No, excuse me, flesh to stone. They do disintegration. So they're very, very nasty creatures. I had to get my eye stalks there. I got a little confused. So it's very, very cool to see these sort of cool D&D creatures in Magic the Gathering. Hopefully we're going to see things like very well-known populated lands. We might see hopefully Waterdeep. We might see Daggerford. We might see Baldur's Gate, Neverwinter. We might even get Undermountain and the mad wizard Halaster Blastcloak, who lives under mountain in the big, huge dungeon that's underneath Fort Waterdeep, Castle Waterdeep. Yeah, it's part of Castle Waterdeep, but it's underneath an inn. And the only way to get inside the Undermount is through an inn that gets lowered through a tavern, and people usually bet on who comes up from the exploration, the dungeon delve, from going into Undermountain. So it's very, very cool. Next card we're going to look at is called a Flumph. I'm not sure what a Flumph is. I'd never heard of it. It's some type of jellyfish. This is a creature. It's a 0/4 creature. Costs 1 white, 1 colorless. It is another rare card. It has what they call Defender. Defender is a keyword in Magic the Gathering, which means this creature cannot attack. It can only block. And it has what's called Flying, which basically means it can block other flying creatures or it can block creatures on the ground. Its ability is whenever Flumph is dealt damage, meaning whenever it takes any damage, you and target opponent each draw a card. This is kind of unique because the color white usually does not have card draw that much. It's really known to create board states. For example, it will prevent creatures from attacking. It will try to control how many creatures are on the board, destroy all creatures on the board, destroy all the lands in play. So it's a lot of global base effects. It tries to break the rules of the game. That's what white really does, and is really known now as probably the weakest color in Magic the Gathering. The flavor text says Flumps siphon thoughts and energy from evil aberrations. Aberrations are, I think, demons is what they call aberrations, or their aberrations are planar creatures is what they are. I don't think they're demonic per se. All right, or I could be wrong there. And often are eager to share the dark knowledge and obtain with friendly adventures. So there might be aberrations, there might be demons as well. I know they're also planar creatures. So that's a Flumph. I've never heard of a Flumph before, so I don't know much about those. Next card is a Cloister Gargoyle. And this is the thing that we talked about for dungeons. So what you may notice is the card art looks a little bit different. They designed these special card arts as like a throwback to the old monster manual in Dungeons and Dragons, where the cards would be drawn in sort of a black and white tone. It wouldn't be in color. It'd be drawn like you see in the screen right here. This sort of sketch or black and white creature text version of this particular monster. And this is a gargoyle. They do have gargoyles in Magic the Gathering. They're known to exist in D&D. And it says here, what's interesting, it's a white artifact, because if you look at the top, it's white. You need white and 2 colors to cast this spell. It's an artifact creature, gargoyle. It's an uncommon. Hey, Vincent Boys, thanks for coming into the chat today, my friend. I know, right? Very, very crazy for 5 years. Can't believe it's 5 years. This says that when Cloister Gargoyle enters the battlefield, you venture into the dungeon. So this thing triggers you going into the dungeon. So we don't know if you have to have some way of going into one, or you can commit yourself to go into the dungeon, like a dungeon crawl. This card allows you to venture into the dungeon. So we don't know what this means yet. So as long as you've completed a dungeon, which means you can complete multiple dungeons, Cloister Gargoyle gets +3 and has +3/+0 and has flying. So this will turn into a 3/4 flyer. So again, we don't know the difficulties of how hard it will be to get into a dungeon yet. We don't know that. Next card is probably the most powerful and well-known dark elf ever, created by Ari Salvatore in 1988, Drizzt Do'Urden. These are real cards. These are spoiled cards that will be dropping in the Magic the Gathering Adventures of the Forgotten Realms set. These are not homebrew cards. Someone didn't make these up. These are real cards. So it costs 3 colorless, a green and a white. You see Drizzt jumping in the air with both Icing Death and Twinkle, and you see Gwen Wyvor behind him. Over here to the right looks to be a frost giant of some sort. At the top here, he is a legendary creature, which means you can only have one of them ever in play on your side at a time. He's an elf ranger. He is a rare, which is surprising. You would think he would have been a mythic rare, but he's a normal rare. He has what they call double strike. Double strike basically means in D&D terms is that when you do when you attack a creature or attack a player and someone blocks you, you do what's called first strike. You deal your damage first. Any damage that the opponent tries to deal to you, if you kill them before they do, you hit them. For example, if Drizzt hit another 3/3 creature, Drizzt would kill the 3/3 before the 3/3 did its damage back to Drizzt. Then he has something called double strike, which basically means do your damage again. So you double your damage. But first striking or double striking will kill creatures or do damage first for creatures that don't have first strike. So you hit your damage first, then they do their damage back if they're still alive. That's the idea. So he has... Cool. Awesome that you had a good vacation, Vincent. So when Drizzt enters the battlefield, he has what's called an Enter the Battlefield trigger, or an EBT trigger. When he enters the battlefield, you create a Gwen Wyvor legendary 4/1 green cat creature token with trample. So he automatically creates a token of Gwen Wyvor, which is a 4/1 green cat creature token that comes into the field. And he has another ability that says whenever a creature dies, and this is an important verbiage here of the text here, whenever a creature dies, that not necessarily means a creature on your side, it's any creature that dies. If it had power greater than Drizzt's power, so his power right now is 3, then you put a number of +1/+1 counters on Drizzt equal to the difference. So for example, if you happen to kill a 5/5 creature, you would add 2 +1/+1 counters in this scenario to Drizzt. That's the idea. If Gwen Wyvor happens to die, Drizzt will now become a 4/4 creature. Because Gwen Wyvor was a 4/1, his or her power was higher than Drizzt's power, so then it would tack a counter onto Drizzt. That's the idea. Very cool card. Looking forward to get my hands on that card. Next is the sketch art, or the art that we were talking about for the Adventures of Forgotten Realms, the sketch art that we were talking about that you would see in the Monster Manual, they did one for Dritz. Same card, just different artwork. So I don't know how difficult it will be to get these sketch art cards. Are they going to be one per pack? Will you be guaranteed to get a sketch card? One of these sketch artwork cards? I don't know. I don't know the rarity or dispersion of them yet. They have not yet said or spoiled what that's all about. Next we have Brunor Battlehammer. So we're getting characters from the Company of the Hall. We already have Brunor, we got Dritz, we're probably going to get Canterbury, we're going to get Regis, we'll probably get Wolfgar, most likely. We might get Piff, the Battle Rager, he'd be cool to have as well. So Brunor Battlehammer, again, legendary creature, he's 2 colorless, a red and a white, for an uncommon, so he's a little easier to get than Dritz, who is a rare. Legendary creature, Dwarf Warrior. Each creature you control gets +0/+0 for each equipment attached to that creature. You may spend 0 rather than pay the equipment cost of the first equip ability you activate each turn. So usually when you equip creatures, usually equipping something to a creature, it's usually an artifact, which you'll see shortly. We have an artifact that did get spoiled, and you have to pay what they call the equip cost. It will make sense. You play the card, and then it'll say equip it for X number of mana. It could be either colored or colorless mana. It depends on the artifact. But Brunor is very eccentric to artifact or equipment-based builds. That's how Brunor's built. But he looks really good. He's got his one horned helmet, very iconic character of Brunor Battlehammer. He's got his sword and his axe and shield. He looks really, really good. They did a good job on that artwork for Brunor. It says, "Knew I'd find you in trouble if I came out and looked for you." Next we have the sketch work for Brunor Battlehammer. Again, same card, same abilities, different artwork. Next we have Loth, Spider Queen. Now this is a Planeswalker, as I mentioned kind of near the beginning of the video. Planeswalkers are characters that traverse different planes, and people were not sure of how they would do the Planeswalkers in the D&D set. Loth here, the Spider Queen, is the goddess of Drow, or Dark Elves. She costs 3 colorless and 2 black. She is a mythic rare, legendary Planeswalker known as Loth. Whenever a creature you control dies, put a loyalty counter on Loth, Spider Queen. She comes into play what they call 4 loyalty counters. When you play a Planeswalker, it sits next to you. And when you attack someone, you can either attack the player or you can attack the Planeswalker. You can't attack both. You got to pick where your creatures are going to attack. So Loth here will gain loyalty counters, meaning think of loyalty as your health, or the health for the Planeswalker. Once the loyalty counters hit 0, that Planeswalker dies. So whenever a creature dies, you put a loyalty counter on Loth. If 3 creatures die, 3 counters get added to Loth. That's how it works. The 0 cost, you can only do this once on your turn. It's usually done as a sorcery speed, unless the card says otherwise. For 0 is you draw a card and you lose 1 life, so you have card draw built into her. -3 from the total, you create 2 1 black spider creature tokens with Menace and Reach. Menace basically means that I believe Menace was you have to have more than 1 creature to block it. I think you need 2 creatures to block it. They might have also changed it to creatures of unless other creatures have Menace. So Menace can block other Menace creatures. I believe, I could be wrong on the terminologies. Again, I haven't played Magic in a very, very long time. I could be incorrect on how Menace works. Also, they have Reach. Reach basically means is that they can block as if they had flying. So if the creature's trying to fly, you have Reach, you can block that creature. That's what Reach means. Last one is what they call the ultimate ability. You -8 from it. You get an emblem with whenever an opponent is dealt combat damage by 1 or more creatures you control, if that player lost less than 8 life this turn, they lose life equal to the difference. So if they lose 1 life, you hit them for another 7. So they lose up to 8 life. That's how it works because, of course, spiders are 8-legged creatures. Hence the idea of 8. So again, a mythic rare, very, very cool creature. It's cool I did Loth this way. We see the adventurer kind of looking up at Loth with the spindly arms grabbing her, grabbing the adventurer in the bottom there. It looks very, very good. And of course they have what's called the extended art version here, which they change how the artwork looks. It's still Loth. It's wrapping up somebody in webbing because she is a spider queen. That's the idea. Same card again, but it's different artwork. And this will probably be more rare. Try to get the extended artwork like this. It might only be in set boosters, things like that. Next we have what's called a game-changing card, a game win con is what they call it as. This is what they call a Vorpal Sword. If you're not familiar, a Vorpal Sword in Dungeons and Dragons means it's a sword so sharp it's designed to cut heads off. Hence, you can see the Gorgon head, aka Medusa, sitting in the adventurer's hands. When you score what they call a critical hit in Dungeons and Dragons, usually is what they call a natural 20. You roll a 20-sided die. If you roll what's called a natural 20, you usually behead your target if the target has a head to be cut off. For example, if you're fighting a gelatinous cube, you can't Vorpal Sword cut off a gelatinous cube's head. They don't have a head. It doesn't work that way. But that's if you see also the energy coming off that blade. It's like, as I said, super sharp. That's the idea for it. What this does, it costs 1 black, so it's again a colored artifact. You put this out in play, and then when you equip it to a creature, it gets +0, +0, and has what they call Death Touch. Death Touch means in D&D, in Magic the Gathering terms, it's any creature that is dealt damage that has Death Touch, regardless of how much power or toughness that creature has, it will kill them at the end of turn. That's the idea. If you attach this to a 1/1 creature and hit somebody with it, if it blocked a 10/10 by a 10/10, the 10/10 would die. Your 1/1 would die, but the 10/10 would die as well. That's what Death Touch means. The other ability underneath it is spending 5 colorless and 3 black, meaning you're pumping all this additional black mana and colorless mana into this weapon. It says, until the end of turn, Vorpal Sword gains whenever a crypt creature deals combat damage to a player, that player loses the game. It's sort of simulating the idea of you rolling a critical hit and chopping somebody's head off. That's the idea of the Vorpal Sword. That's very good flavor what they did here. I like what they did. I believe this is also what they call the Buy a Box promo. So if you happen to buy from a local gaming store, an LGS, if you bought the Adventures in Forgotten Realms, they'll probably hand you this card if they had any that was still available. For every box you buy, they should hand you this card. That's the idea. And I believe it's going to look like this image here. This is the Buy a Box promo. Right here, this variant you see here. This, I believe, this image right here, this woman with the sword, is the Buy a Box promo. Next, we have what they call a Baleful Beholder. We talked about beholders before. This is, of course, the sketch art version of the card. It's a black creature. As I mentioned, it's a big ball that floats with big teeth, a big central eye, and little eye stalks that come off the side. That is a beholder. We don't know what it does yet, no clue. And the original artwork of what the beholder looks like is like this. Beholders are very frightening creatures in D&D. Xanathar, hopefully they make the Xanathar Beholder. If you're not familiar with the name Xanathar, it's a sort of a rite of name for a particular beholder that lives in the city of Waterdeep. He's actually a mob boss. Think of it that way. He's a mob boss who lives in the Waterdeep town, probably the biggest town in the Forgotten Realms. He controls many gangs and thieves guilds, and everyone's fearful of Xanathar. And he has, it's very interesting because they try to keep him pleased. He has literally a goldfish that sits in a big tank. That many times this goldfish has died, and his followers will have to replace the goldfish with another goldfish, because if they don't, he'll go berserk. And I think the goldfish is called Salazar, I believe the goldfish's name, and he'll go completely berserk and kill everything in sight. So his followers try to keep him kind of appeased by replacing the goldfish whenever it happens to die. So it's very, very funny. So again, black creature, that's what it looks like. We don't know what the abilities are. Hopefully it'll be a very cool card. Next is Tiamat, the Mother of Dragons, the 5-headed dragon. If you ever watched the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, it was the nemesis of the heroes, and of course, Venger. It's literally the Mother of Dragons. It's a dragon god. It costs 1 of every color: green, red, black, blue, and white, and 2 colorless. It's a legendary creature, dragon god, mythic rare, has flying. When Tiamat enters the battlefield, again, what they call an ETB trigger, if you casted it, search your library for up to 5 dragon cards not named Tiamat that each have a different name, reveal them, put them into your hand, and then shuffle your deck. So what she does is allow you to search through your deck to pull dragons out. That's the idea of what she does. So she basically summons dragons. So she grabs 5 different dragons with different names and puts them into your hand. You can't play them right now unless you have a way of doing that, but you can grab out those dragons. So very, very cool ability, very cool effect. She is a flying 7/7. You can see the power and toughness in the corner here. Also, she has variant artwork as well. Another shot of Tiamat. She basically has a red-centered head and body. Green dragon head, blue dragon head, black dragon head, white dragon head. Each one of those heads has an individual breath weapon. Blue for lightning, green for chlorine gas, red for fire, black for acid, and of course white for frost or ice. That's the idea for the Tiamat. Over here we have Prosper's Innkeeper. They're bringing what they call halflings. Halflings are denizens, of course, of Dungeons and Dragons. Think of halflings sort of like your Bilbo Baggins, your Frodo Baggins. They are hobbits, but they're also considered like halflings, so short people, very very small. Think of them not really dwarves, because dwarves are their own race. Dwarves are dwarves. Halflings are smaller people. This is a Prosperous Innkeeper, costs green and 1 white. It can be green and 1 colorless, uncommon, 1/1. When Prosperous Innkeeper enters the battlefield, create a treasure token. It's an artifact with sacrifice. Tap it, sacrifice this artifact creature, add 1 mana of any color. And when another creature enters the battlefield under your control, meaning you summon the creature under your control, you gain 1 life. Of course, it's a very weak creature, it's only a 1/1. Next, we have a very cool spell, very, very flavorful, called Power Word Kill. In Dungeons and Dragons, it's one of the more powerful spells in D&D. It's a black spell here. If you look, there's what looks like a lich or a very powerful wizard, probably a lich, just has his hands like this, saying a word, probably the word kill, or die, and you will die, literally die. You have to make what's called a saving throw. If you miss the saving throw, you drop dead. That's what Power Word Kill does. This one does is an uncommon spell. It destroys target. You have to target something. Non-angel, non-demon, non-devil, non-dragon creature. That's what I think how Power Word Kill worked in D&D. You can only target a certain level back in the 2nd or 3rd edition. You can only target a certain what they call hit dice of creature. You couldn't target someone like you couldn't try to kill a god. You couldn't try to kill a dragon or a demigod. You couldn't. The spell was powerful, but not that powerful. You couldn't do that sort of damage. You couldn't kill like that. But it's a very powerful spell. It says, Aramil issued a long, heroic challenge. Then the Lich felled him with a single word. It makes perfect sense. Love the flavor with that card. And next is Portable Hole. Portable Hole is an artifact, again, a colored artifact of white. It is an artifact, again, uncommon. You can tell by the light blue color right here on the side. That when a Portable Hole enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent an opponent controls with mana value 2 or less until Portable Hole leaves the battlefield. The idea is you put whatever it is into the Portable Hole. Think of it as like an old school Acme, let's say, Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote gag, where you would have the hole on the ground, and you would put the hole down, and he would fall into the hole. That's the idea. That's literally what a Portable Hole is. You literally take the hole, unfold it, put it on the ground, and you can put stuff or people into a Portable Hole. And then you can just fold it up and put it back in your pocket. It would be interesting if they would have had, there was a gag in D&D. If you take a Portable Hole and put it inside a bag of holding, it actually ruptures, rip into the space-time continuum, and it will suck everything within like, a quarter mile or huge amount of radius into this kind of black hole effect. So it's very bad to put a Portable Hole inside a bag of holding. It's a very, very bad thing. And they did make a bag of holding for Magic the Gathering. It's not listed in the spoilers, but it was done prior to the D&D set being spoiled and the spoilers being released. So very, very cool having a Portable Hole. It does say they fall for it every time. And the idea is that you put the Portable Hole out, someone falls in the Portable Hole. That's what they're talking about here. But it's usually done for storage and basically handling encumbrance, but putting your stuff into this Portable Hole. And I think last but not least is the listing of the main site we saw, which we got all these spoilers from. But one thing we want to talk about real quick are the lands, the basic lands. Of course, there's one for every color: plains, islands, forests, and mountains and swamps. And there's flavor text on these lands, kind of very reminiscent from D&D. They put flavor text on the land. Normally they don't do this for Magic the Gathering. Normally they don't put flavor text on land. So it's very, very cool that they did this. The plain says, venturing beneath the desert sands, you discovered an alien power pulsing with inconceivable energy. The blue one, the island, says, alarmed by the news you brought, the storm Giant King of the Maelstrom has called his kin to council. The forest is, before the Elf Queen will aid you, you must find a way to cure the strange rot afflicting the forest of the ancient trees. Mountains. Again, as says here, as you make your camp near the ancient ruins, you hear sounds of drums echoing in the halls where no dwarf has lived in generations. So, kind of like a plot hook right there. So, very, very cool. And of course, last but not least, Swamp. You expect to meet the hostile drow in this ancient ruin, but they fled long ago. What darkness could have driven them out? So, another kind of plot hook, which is very, very cool coming from these lands. So, let me switch over back here because that is all of the spoilers from the Dungeons and Dragons release set. Again, very, very cool. Very happy with everything they've come up with. It's very, very neat what they've done with this particular set. Very, very happy to get my hands on this particular set in the near future. But all things considered, it's going to be a very cool set. We're coming around to 9:45 now. I think I'm going to probably cut the stream off momentarily. I wanted to run for about 30 minutes, but we ran a little bit longer than that. So I think it was a pretty good stream, all things considered. I really wanted to talk about everything that was being talked about from the Dungeons and Dragons expansion from the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. They're going to be coming out in booster packs, coming out in set boosters, collector boosters. Also, I didn't talk about coming out what they call commander decks, which are going to be 100 card decks. They're coming out with 4 different commander decks to go along with this particular release product. I'm probably going to pick up the commander decks as well, just to have them, because it could technically be part of the set. And the cards that are in the commander deck are cards that are unique to commander, but are still part of this particular expansion. That was the only way to get those particular cards, was in the commander deck. So you're going to have, I think, 300 cards, but you might have an extra 10, 15 cards situated between those 4 commander decks, maybe 2 or 3 cards that are different in those commander decks as well. So it's going to be very, very cool doing the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms. I think it's going to be a very, very good set. As I mentioned before I cut the stream, will it be profitable to buy this set? I think so. I think it's something, a set that if they don't make any more of these spin-off sets for other D&D properties, like if they don't go into Dragonlance or Ravenloft or Starjammer. Hey, Ultimate Killer, thanks for coming into the stream tonight. If they don't do those particular properties, then this will be a very, very important set down the road. Mainly because we've never seen a Dungeons and Dragons based set before, and it's going to be very, very cool having this property come into Magic the Gathering. If they do it more and more, will it hurt this value? Depending on the cards, I think it's going to be a really good set down the road. I definitely would advise, if you are a fan of D&D, definitely pick up product for it if you can't afford it. If you can't afford, let's say, buying a full box or booster box, maybe buy a commander deck or 2. I think they're going to be they may be the $20 price point commander decks. I think from Strixhaven, when the Strixhaven sets came out, I believe their commander decks were $20. They're very, very affordable decks. At most, when you do commander decks before, they don't go higher than $40. So if you can get them for $20, perfect. I highly recommend that. They'll give you a good feel for how commander decks work. Commander decks don't play the same way of normal decks. They're what they call 100 card decks, and they use what they call the Highlander rule, which means maximum of only 1 card type of that card per deck. So if you had that Vorpal Sword, for example, the normal Magic rules, you could have 4 Vorpal Swords in your deck. With this, but you can only, if it's legendary, you can only have 1 at a time. But with the Highlander rule for Commander, you can only have 1 physically in your deck. That's the idea of Commander. You start with 40 life instead of 20 life, and if you ever dealt 21 points of damage by a Commander, you lose the game. And it's a multiplayer game, so you're playing against multiple players. That's the idea of Commander. And you have a Commander out. That's the person that you build your deck around. And it's usually color thematic based. So if your Commander is green and white, you can only have green, white, and artifacts or colorless spells in your deck. If it's all 5 colors, you could have all 5 colors in it. If you're running just a green commander, you can only play with green spells or colorless spells. You can't play with cards outside of your affinity. That's the idea of it. How do I feel about the new Black Series? I think they're okay. I think I know what you're talking about. I believe they're re-releasing from their like the 50th anniversary stuff, the archive collection. I know they're re-releasing Darth Revan. He's gonna be one of the ones that will be coming back out again. I already have a Revan, so it's okay for me. I'm not a huge I'm not going to jump on anything for the particular Black Series tomorrow, from what I've seen on the spoilers. But certain Black Series figures I will get my hands on. I've got my hands on several, as you've seen before, I've got my hands on several different Mandalorians. I got, of course, the Carbonized Mandalorian. I've gotten the Jindarin Unmasked one, which is a horrible-looking face sculpt. I got the Bo-Katan, had to get that one, just on principle alone. So, all things considered, probably holding off on that next wave. But that's about it for this stream, this particular day, guys. Again, it was a special stream. I wanted to drop one, just talk about getting the 5th year anniversary. Yep, there's a Bad Batch, Captain Rex. I believe the Bad Batch one, I think is vintage, though, if I'm correct, Ultimate Killer. I could be incorrect. I don't think they're coming out with a 6-inch on that one. I thought it was vintage. I could be incorrect, though. But I know they're coming out with a vintage one for the Bad Batch. But I'm not quite sure yet. I do have a Captain Rex. I even have the HasbroCon Captain Rex. That's the one I purchased. I actually got 2 of those. I didn't even get the normal Black Series release of Captain Rex, which had the adjusted, I think, face sculpt and the adjusted helmet. But I have the HasbroCon version of him, and I'm very, very happy about that one. So that's about it for the stream tonight. I want to thank everyone who came in. We started at 9 o'clock. If you didn't catch the full stream, you can definitely catch it on video on demand. I'll be going up probably tomorrow. Again, the 5th year anniversary will be happening on July 4th. We're doing 3 different giveaways that particular day. As far as that video, which will be on Sunday, on July 4th, we're going to be doing, as far as the themes for those giveaways, one's going to be based on Funko movies, one's going to be based on a small statue by Iron Studios, and the last item, of course, is going to be Wife's Choice. She's picking out the giveaway for that last item. So that's it for this stream, guys. We're going to be cutting the stream now in 3, 2, 1. Take care, guys.